Hello, what's up guys? Welcome to another video. My name is Mindglowing and today we're going to transform your logo into an epic animation for your intro. First of all, I'd like to say that this video has been inspired by Halifax Learns video, and he's an awesome YouTuber who makes epic content, so please check him out. I wanted to bring some elements of my own and bring it to the next level as this video has been requested by one of you guys. I hope you enjoy it. We're going to use tracesvg.com and we're going to auto trace our logo, which is a JPEG right now, could be a PNG as well. And we're going to convert this to an SVG to then later import in Blender. I've seen that the tracesvg.com works best with a black logo and a white background, so make sure you have that set up. Then we're just going to simply drag and drop and trace the logo. Going to wait a bit, and there we have it. It's very big. Mine's in 4K, so let's just Control S for save, and you see it will have the .svg. So let's save this in our asset folder. SVG, I'm just gonna call it like that. There we have our auto trace SVG. So now we're going to open Blender. Right, so we'll delete the default cube and the light. Go to File, Import, and then we have SVG, Scalable Vector Graphics. Go to the folder we saved it to and import SVG. So you see that it created a bunch of curves, and we can see it right here. It's pretty small, but it's in different objects right now. So let's just select our objects, so Control J, and it's one object right now, so set origin to geometry and then Alt G to put it in the middle. So what we need to do right now is give it some geometry, because it's very flat right now, as you can see. So let's extrude this a bit, and this looks fine to me. Maybe a little bit bigger. There we go. Going to rotate this 90 degrees on the x-axis, and we're going to set our camera up. Going to press 1 on the numpad, Control Alt 0 to set the camera. So let's make sure these values are at 0. Going to bring the z-axis a bit up or down in this case. Alright, that seems good. Let's set up our first light so we can actually see what we're going to do in the shading. And let's set this at 100. See if that works. Yeah, that's good. So right now our logo is entirely black, and that is because the SVG already has a shader, which we will delete. And we will create a new one. I'm in the rendered view at the moment, and we're going to create some emission on this, some kind of emission, and then afterwards we're going to add a glass structure around it. So let's add an emission node, mix these two. I want the emission on the bottom. You'll see in a second why. Let's set this to purple, slight purple, and I'm going to set this at 20. Then we need a gradient texture, a color ramp for control. We're going to set the color into the factor of the mix shader. Now what we want to do is You need a separate XYZ node, and we're going to separate the Z axis. And that is, you might think that it is the Y axis in a second, but because we flipped it, it's the Z axis. Well, rotate it, and we didn't flip it, we rotated it. So we need a mapping and a texture coordinate. And we're gonna use the object. All right, now we have everything. So let's control it through our gradient or color ramp. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip it. Going to add another black one to the front. Then we can see the black is coming in. That's exactly what we want. We can't control it enough, that's why we use all mapping. Move it around a bit so it's exactly in the middle, like that. All right. So let's give it a color as well, our entire object. Let's give it some purple as well, like that. Looks good. And then we're going to play with the roughness. I want a noise texture, color ramp to control it. Plug it into the roughness. I'm gonna add another white. Here we go. It's in the middle. Or light right now if we change it. As you can see that the light is really showing onto the logo, and that's not what we want. So what we're gonna do is, instead of making it pure black, gonna add a bit of gray in it, maybe like this, and then we're gonna up the scale. We can actually work with something. I think, yeah, 24, 25, something like that. Gonna set it to 4D, and we're going to change the W. Divided by 200. Is that enough? It's going too fast. 1000. Yeah, that looks nice. Very subtle effect, but looks nice. So what we're going to do is click on this, duplicate it. I'm going to use a new material, so let's change the name to logo. Inside I want to use a new material for this. Scale it up a bit. And because we're going to work with some kind of glass in Eevee, we need to change the blend mode to alpha blend, so we can see through it. Can already see it a bit. Right, so for our glass, going to use a glossy BSDF, and we're going to mix these two. Change the color. Set this to purple again. Starting to look like some kind of glass already. Let's use a transparent BSDF. But before we do that, let's change our roughness. Going to do quite the same like the other one, but we're gonna, instead of having 3 points in our color ramp, we're gonna use these two. Not much to see right now, it's very subtle. Set this to 16, change the detail to 0. Let's bring it in. You can see it with the light a bit, but it's very chopped off again. So let's set this to a lighter gray, like that. Right now it's very close, so let's scale it into the Y direction a bit. Looks a bit better. Maybe scale it a little smaller. Do you think it looks good? We already have our Looks a bit like glass overlay right now. So now let's go to our transparent BSDF, and we're gonna mix these two and control the factor of the mix shader. We're going to add a Voronoi texture and the color ramp to control it. Distance to the color ramp, factor, set this to 4D, distance to edge, so we can't really see the effect. That's why we need to up our scale, and now it's coming in, as you can see. So let's set this to 58. That's nice. And just play with this until it looks good, because my settings will definitely not be the same as your settings. Alright, so that looks good. Let's animate this as well. Set this to hashtag frame divided by 5000. Now it's going very slowly but nicely. So let's tweak this a bit. I want it a bit wider. Change the z-axis to put it in the middle. Maybe even hide the glass for now. It's a bit too much, so we can change our positions a bit. Holding the shift key so it goes easier. Control the position. Right. Bring back in our glass. Going to create a new collection, put them in the logo. Let's change our vault settings. Set this to black. Going to enable bloom, ambient occlusion, screen space reflections. And I forgot something, because right now we can see that our emission goes through our Voronoi texture, but not the entire logo. As you can see here, the light is coming through very nicely, but not through the glass. And how can we fix that? Go to the glass, and on the principal BSDF, we're going to change the transmission from 0 to 1 and change the alpha to 0.4. And that will bring in that emission and even stronger through the Voronoi, which has a very nice effect to it. So once you're done with tweaking your settings a bit and you're happy with the result, what we can do is add some more lights. I'm going to add an area light and rotate it x minus 90 degrees. GY to move it. I'm going to increase it, maybe 50, make it smaller. That emission coming through a bit, it's still too much. Set it to 25. Right, let's add another light. Let's put this in our SVG collection and just change that one, change the name to lights. Or point light. Set back. A bit of purple. And increase that maybe to 1000. Looks nice. Just from the back that goes through in here a bit. Give that extra. It's just a little detail. We want to control these two objects. It's easier to add an empty. For example, I'm going to go in the cheating. Scale it down. Just create a box around your logo. And select the other two. Make sure the empty is selected last. Control P to set it as a parent to the object. Move the empty into the logo collection. Scale it, move it down. It's a bit easier So now let's add some text. Going to rotate this into the x-axis 90 degrees. Change it to mind glowing in caps. My name, of course, just put your name there. And let's give it some geometry. Like that. And let's put it in the center. So in the paragraph alignment, you can use center, vertical center as well. And let's scale this down. Like this, for example. Want to change the font. Like this one, Lila Wadi. I'm not sure how to pronounce this, but it's like it's looking nice font. So we want to self-fracture this. Let's put it in this collection. We want to self-fracture this. This is by using an add-on that comes with Blender. So just look for fracture and you'll find self-fracture. Enable it. Select all text object. Need to convert this to a mesh first. And right now geometry is looking really bad, so let's change that. Add a modifier, remesh, and set it to sharp. Make sure that you unselect remove disconnected. Set it to a higher number. Have some problems here, as you can see with 7. 8 is looking good, but 9 is looking even better. Just make sure that your computer doesn't crash when you put in high numbers. Let's apply this, or Control A you can use. Right, and now I'm going to search using the F3 button, or self-fracture. So fracture, and there it is. Going to set the noise at 1. Right, it's gonna be at 0, and set the source limit to 200 instead of 100. I'm not going to change the other settings. I'm just going to press OK. As you can see, it's fracturing all text. Give it a moment. The more you put in the remesh modifier, the longer it's gonna take. Alright, it's looking a bit weird right now, and that is because our original text layer is still there. So let's just delete that. Don't need that anymore. There we have our texts. What I can see though is that it's in the wrong collection. So let's select them and move them to the text collection. And this is going to be very important once we're going to use our geometry nodes. Right, so let's just start with our geometry nodes. Let's open geometry nodes in here. To get rid of this, you can use the N key on your keyboard. Let's create a plane. And click on new geometry nodes. Delete the group input, we don't need that. What we're going to do is use our collection info. We're going to use our text collection. And what's very important is that you press relative and separate children. So these become instances. Right, let's scale all instances. Oops, wrong one. Scale instances. There we go. And we have an error. Collection contains current object. What that means is that we put a plane in our text collection, and we cannot do that. So let's put it in our collection, or just create a new one. GeoNodes. There we go. So it must be in a separate collection, very important, so our error is gone. We're going to use an empty to control or scale instances. Let's add an empty axis. Going to move it at the text location, make it a bit smaller. Right now it's in the middle. Make sure this is in another collection as well. It's on the geonode, so every new object is going to spawn in there. Right, like that, something like that. It's in the middle right now. We're going to animate this later on. And what we're going to do is add our empty by dragging it to our plane, which has all geometry nodes inside. Need another position node. We're going to create a distance of these two with a vector math. Calculate the distance, set it to distance. There we go. We're gonna use the location and the position, and to control it better, another color ramp, a map range, plug it in, right, and set this, connect this to the scale. Going to change is this. See it a bit right now. So to control it even more, we need another map range, and I'll set this to 1 and this to 0.2, 0.2. Find XYZ node. Set this to the x-axis, this to the center. We are viewing the text collection. We need to exclude this from the rendered view. That's what was going wrong. All right, so you can see if we're going to animate this later on, that we're getting this effect that with the cell fracture. It's looking really nice. Okay, but it doesn't end here. We're going to do the same thing with a translate instances, just to organize things a bit. Let's select these, Control J for our frame, and F2 to change the name. Scale effect, I'm gonna call this, we need a combine XYZ node. Put this translation, and then we're going to use 3 random value nodes. Make sure that your seed is different every time. So I'm going to use 0, 1, and 2. X, Y, and Z. You can already see it's jumping up. And I'm going to use 2 values. One for the minimum, and the other one for the maximum. So right now it's at 0. Let's just move all empty out of the way so we can see what's happening. Use these 2 values. We can animate it so it goes off the screen. Okay, and let's animate these values. I'm going to set this at -10 and this one at 10. All right, add an keyframe using the I on the keyboard. Set it to the 50th frame. Set it at 0. Get to add a keyframe. Now when we press play, it's going in very fast. So we need to change that into the graph editor. So we need to select all plane or text in this case. Geometry nodes, you need to select one. Changes in the graph editor. Start with the first one. These are set to linear right now, and I want them as Bezier. So what we can do is select these keyframes and press T on the keyboard. Select Bezier. Yours are going to be most likely Bezier because I changed it in the settings to be linear for the previous video. If we press play, it's already a bit better, but let's change it all the way. Let's see if this is better. It's better, yeah. Just change these handles so they ease in a bit more at the end. What I'm seeing though is a little piece still there. When we set this -20, it's at 20, -20. All right. Let's see if this is better. Yeah, that looks better. Okay. Now all we need to do is give all texts a shader. Going to do that in all geometry nodes. This is our last step. So set material. We didn't create one yet, so go to shader, create a new one. Let's call this text. Set it to text in here. Alright, now we can start shading all text. To be very simple, because all lights do most of the work already. Let's open the shader editor, change this to hide a bit so it's all on our text. Scale it. If we scale it though, we need to, so let's set it at 50. See it coming through nicely. We're going to animate or empty box. So go to the first frame, go to the object properties and insert a keyframe on the location rotation. Move this to the 30th keyframe. And now we're gonna move it into the Y direction behind our camera. Gonna rotate the X by 180, the Y by 180 to make a flip effect. Add a keyframe on location and rotation. See how that looks. Looks great. Alright, and then on our keyframe, we're going to add a keyframe on the Z axis, but right now it's already animated. So what we can do is clear a single keyframe, so the Z is not animated anymore, as you can see. Keyframe, insert a keyframe, a single keyframe, and then go to 20 to add 360 degrees. Add a single keyframe again. Let's see how that looks. Looks good. Now we're going to add some particles, but first of all, we're going to create our particle. So create a new icosphere. Make it small. Make sure it's off screen. This and add a new shader. I'm going to delete the principal BSDF, add an emission node, and add a translucent node. Let's change this to rendered view. Mix these two. Let's set the color purple. This it's to 50. It's a very light purple. Yeah, like that. Oops. Go. Let's control the factor with the layer weight. Set this at 0.99. And I'm going to connect the facing into the factor. Getting this nice effect. Now let's add some particles. To do that, we need a plane. And go to the particle properties, add a new particle system, set the number to 500. We want to change our frame end to 1, lifetime 130, go into velocity, change this to 0, go to render, set this to objects, select our icosphere. This is a good moment to add them to a new collection called particles. Go to viewport display and make sure the emitter is off. Same in all rendered. Got to do that. Right, and then we go to field weights and we're going to turn off all gravity. All we need to do, let's go into the particles folder. All we need to do is add a force field. Let's use a turbulence. Move our plane down first. As well with our turbulence. Let's see what that does. That looks nice. It looks a bit too small. These are just settings we can tweak with. We can either go to the plane, go to the particle system, go to render, and we can figure it in when we scale our object. Alright. So the only problem right now we're having is we put the lifetime at 30, so they just disappear after the 130th keyframe. So what we want to do is make sure they're completely gone and faded by that time. So what we can do is go back into the physics properties of our plane, can animate or scale. So go to the 100th keyframe, press I, go to the 130th key, make this 0, press I. Now if we play it again, fades out nicely. Okay, so let's add a background. To add a plane, make it big enough. Lights are on it too much, so let's put it to the back. Up again so it hits your camera. If you can't see your camera well enough, what we can do is go to our camera settings, viewport display, and change the passport to 1, so we can only see what's going to be rendered. So we click on our background, add a new collection to BG background, new shader. And what we want to do is use a gradient texture, set it to spherical, add a color ramp, make these two. Black I'm going to change in a very dark purple, and white is going to be very light purple. Set this to the base color. And if we press 1 on the numpad, what we can see is that the radial, spherical radial starts at this point. So what we can do is press Ctrl T on gradient texture and we can move the location. As you can see, the sphere is very big. So what we can do first is scale it down and then move it. Settings, it's still big, pretty big. Let's change it, scale it down, just tweak these settings a bit until you're satisfied. What we can do to make it look even better is go to the color management and change the look to high or very high contrast. All we need to do now is change our end frame to 150 and that's basically it. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching and I hope to see you in the next video.